What's going on, everybody? I had to, some of you guys are already in the chat making fun of me for like the progression of Underdog Theology. Hopefully you can hear me. First off, I gotta say that. Let me know if there's 1,000 of me. But you're making fun of me also for like the progression thing. I had to do that because I got to go deal with some stuff. And so I was like about to go live, and then I was like, oh, I'll just put on the timer. And that also just like lets people know that we're going. So what's going on? Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday night. I don't know what you guys are up to. Probably not a whole lot if you're hanging out with me. Slim pickings. You couldn't find anything on Netflix, and here you are. We are going to be talking about some pride, some arrogance, typical things that we talk about on this channel. It seems like every day, like at least for like the last 2 weeks, there's been something. There's been something going on Twitter every single day, something else to be outraged about, something else to, just be ticked over. And here we are, I'm ticked once again about a bunch of things, actually. But it's from the same people. So we're just talking about those things together. If you are one of those people who gets mad about that kind of stuff, see ya. You're not going to like this channel. Like, we react to things. We have fun talking about these things. And if you can't do that, if you can't talk about the public things that public people say publicly and have a little bit of fun, then this probably isn't the channel for you. I'm going to start saying that like pretty much every stream that I do, because every time I get people being like, oh, you didn't bring up this and this, and oh, you're not talking about like the full thing. And it's like, not everything has to be an hour and a half, like of just like caveats before you get into a topic. So we're going to be reacting. We're going to be having some fun. We're going to be hanging out in the chat. Oh, it works. Okay. All right. This isn't how it's always going to look, but I'm okay with it today. We've got some people hanging out, so let's go up and say hi. We got Steven, who was here way before the stream got started and was just like, I'm in Scotland, so hey, I'm not going to be there because it's late. It's really late at night for him, and that's okay. I love you, Steven. Carol is here, and Wendy is here, and remember to do the sound check. Remember that time when he really messed up on his audio? That's almost every time. I have a screen over here with my face on it, and doing that Zoom really messed me up. Yes. You're like, oh, he was slick for the first time in like a year. And then I had to point it out. All right. That's what we do. Caleb's being mean to me. Heidi is also being mean to me. Oh, wait, no. Hey, dogs, just sitting on the couch holding hands with my man. But, not like how Denzel meant it. Dylan says, is flipping the bird a new fruit of the spirit? We'll talk about it. Apparently. And then there was some more making fun of me. What else is there? That's pretty much what the chat is at this point. Heidi says it is 2:20 Sunday morning in Scotland, in case you wanted to know. So Heidi knows how to use Google. That's pretty cool. All right. Let's talk about some stuff. Okay. We're going to be talking first, let's do the Josh Howton thing. But not the other Josh Howton thing. There's been like 8 Josh Howton things that we could have talked about. But honestly, I don't like this guy. I don't like a lot of these guys. So I'll just say that. But this guy, he just bugs me. He just bugs me because I don't get him. I'm done. Like, hey, if you're just entering into the stream, just know that there's like so much backstory to a lot of this. So if you're like, why is he so like against this guy? Well, there's like 1,000 videos. I've done like 500 and some odd videos. And so you're catching me like 9 seasons in. Okay. It's like a TV show. where like you're starting at like no, I'm not going to say the last season. All right. I'm just saying, further along in the series, and you might be like, how did he get here? Go watch some of the other stuff about Josh Howton. But this guy, I don't like him because I just don't get him. I don't get why he's popular. He's not a good preacher. He doesn't even preach his own stuff. He plagiarizes and steals and doesn't care. He's got people in his church that he's marginalized and he doesn't care. He has manipulated. You guys remember this? He has manipulated the city by having staff drive around. I should say allegedly, so people don't sue me. But allegedly, he's had staff drive around their campus and go through a certain area so that they could act like there's more traffic going to their church so they get a stoplight. Like, that might not sound like a big deal to you, but I want you to think about the implications. The implications are that he's having like staff lie, that he's bloating the numbers of his church, but also that he's wanting the city to pay for it. And I know there were like, oh, we have offered to pay for it, but that's not how everything works. You can't just like be like, we're going to have the city do this and we're going to pay for it. It's not like the city comes to you and just like, hey, money, please. Like, that's not how the city works. Like taxes and everything. Like, it doesn't work just like handing a check over to somebody. So he's just like, he does a lot of stuff and I don't like it. And he thinks he's like some influencer. And he's always like wearing a tank top and then like putting his bicep up. And he's just like, let's talk about modesty, like, it's just like, what are you doing, man? Like, I don't know anyone who like starts a video like that, like, it's, oh, I can't believe you found me this way. Like, no, you wanted to be seen like that, or you brought all your equipment, because I bet you that the guy doesn't just, he's not doing this. Okay. All right, we're going deep into some of this stuff, but he's not just like holding up a phone and it's just like, oh, I'm going to do this video and I'm just going to shoot it on my phone. I think some of that audio is actually like a microphone, which means you got to hook up another microphone to it. And it's just like, you plan this thing out. Like, everything the guy does is planned, and a lot of it is stolen from other people. And so he went on to TikTok this week, or I don't know where he posts his videos. I just always see it all making the rounds on Twitter. All right. Twitter is where I get all this stuff basically. And, well, let's just watch it. Here we go. All right. Let's just take a look.
Church pastors, and I've kept some secrets, but my conscience will not allow me to stay quiet about.
Let's go all the way back to the beginning.
Megachurch pastors, and I've kept some secrets, but
all right, he's got secrets.
Will not allow me to stay quiet about these things anymore. So here they are, all true stories, names redacted. Hang tight. There's a reason I'm going public with this right now. So Pastor A led 2 different churches of over 10,000 people, and then he quietly stepped down in his prime to help plant a church in a city that needed one. And now, instead of speaking at huge conferences, he renovates widows' homes and leads a Bible study for recovering addicts every Thursday morning. Pastor B pastored one of the 3 largest churches in America, and then he wrote an international bestseller. He used the money from the book to repay the church every dollar they'd ever salaried him and to launch a group of nonprofits that serve the poor. Pastor C sets aside a large portion of his family's income to anonymously help families adopt. They have a goal of funding 100 orphans adoptions before they're done. Pastor D is not like a hang out in the green room before services kind of guy. Instead, this guy arrives 3 hours before services every weekend to pray for the 10,000 people that attend his church. Now, here's my point.
Okay.
Every one
I'm holding it in.
Hear about, there's 100 secret successes. Now, you may say, well, then why don't I ever hear about them? Because planes that land safely don't make the news.
Well, okay. Planes that land safely don't make the news. A lot there. We're going to skip past the fact that he, added captions and did the editing, and, even like something like he zooms in with his camera with his hand. It's all gimmicky. But this is something he rehearsed in front of the mirror a couple times, and now put it onto his tiki-taka. 'Taki. And all right, let's start talking about it. All right. It's, Is it true that there are good megachurch pastors out there? Boy, I hope so. Right? Like, there's still pastors. We here on this channel, I haven't been too shy about the fact that I think that the megachurch model is flawed. I think it's unbiblical. I don't see how a qualified pastor can effectively pastor that amount of people. And how can, a sheep in that congregation, just a normal person who loves Jesus, wants to see people come to Jesus, wants to see the ministries of the church do well. I don't understand how you can faithfully follow Jesus by following a pastor that you don't know, right? That doesn't have like that one-on-one relationship with you, that you can't even develop that at all. Like, I mean, it's not the same, because like Josh Howton is a megachurch pastor, but let's be clear, it's not like the biggest megachurch ever. He's no Joel Osteen. All right. I know that like the amount of times that he talks about megachurch pastors makes it seem like he is like right up there with them. He is not. He is not at all. But like with Stephen Furtick, like he used to have a program at his church where like if you won like basically employee of the month with the church, as far as their volunteers, like you were volunteer of the month, then you can go, like they would get it for a few months all together, and then they would send these people to have lunch with the pastor. And it was like this really weird, awkward thing. There's tons of stories out there from that thing. Like sometimes that happens with some of these megachurch pastors. You can have that. But most of the time, you're not going to get like employee of the month at the church or volunteer of the month. So you don't even know that guy. Josh Howton probably can be more known by his church, but not much. Like you're not going to be able to just be like, hey, can we go out to coffee sometime this week? I'm really struggling with something. I need to bounce some ideas off of you. Get some solid advice. Like, let's just hang out. Not going to happen. So I have a lot of issues with the megachurch model. But let's be clear. Like he's talking about it as if like the stories that you hear, the horror stories that you hear from like Julie Royce, he's gone at Julie Royce before, like those stories, those are the anomalies. And what the standard is are these guys, Pastor A, Pastor B, Pastor C, and these are all megachurch pastors that he personally knows that you can't verify because, again, no names, which... Okay. So the guy has plagiarized in the past. So I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too mean, but if you're willing to plagiarize and you don't care, I have a sneaking suspicion that some of these things just aren't true. But let's just go out on a limb and say these three pastors, or I think he's maybe three or four or whatever, that they're all real. All right. Isn't that the norm? Shouldn't you have like 1,000 of those stories to be able to tell? And, having, let's say, even if it was the small percentage, like he like 1 out of 100, all right, you think about all the churches in North America. If 1 out of 100 have these kinds of stories happening, that's really bad. Like there are, just in Southern Baptist Convention, 47,000 churches. All right, so you extrapolate that across denominational lines, we're talking about thousands and thousands of churches. And if you have 1 out of 100 that are having some kind of scandal like this, that's a lot of scandals. And he's acting as if like these pastors who are the real norm of these megachurch pastors. So we can whittle down the numbers because we know like the stories and we know the ones that are attached. And like, I'll just ask you, maybe even in your own mind, or you could throw it in the chat. Can you name a megachurch that hasn't had some kind of scandal? Because off the top of my head, I don't know every single one, of course, but off the top of my head, I can't. But like I'm talking about over 2,000. Megachurch means over 2,000. Can you name a church that has never had a scandal? That's just a side point. But let's just say, all right, all these guys are great. That doesn't mean that the bad doesn't happen. That doesn't mean that the bad happens any less. What he's trying to say is that stop being so harsh on megachurch pastors because most of them are like this. Well, they're also making a lot of money. Like he even says like this megachurch pastor who sits in the green room, or who he's not a green room guy. Shouldn't all pastors like not be green room guys where they're just hanging out and not talking to people and not pastoring people because they're in a room getting ready for themselves to go out and do that motivational speech? Like, shouldn't all pastors not be green room guys? And if there are green room guys, then you know that there's a problem, right? And he's saying like, oh, he gets to the church 3 hours before service starts. You mean like any pastor? Like, I don't know. Maybe there are some Sundays that the pastor isn't there 3 hours before service. Maybe, maybe he's just like a laid back guy and has gotten everything done during the week, so he only has to be there like an hour before service. But most pastors I know certainly when I was a senior pastor, I was there 3 hours before service all the frickin' time. That was a norm. That's a norm for most pastors. So to speak about it as if it's like this amazing thing. He got to the church 3 hours before service just so he could pray. Okay, cool. One, I guarantee you he's not praying the entire time. So don't come at me with he prayed for 3 hours before. He prayed a lot. It's, we don't have to put a number on it, but it's probably not the 3 hours. But also, like, you got stuff to do. Every pastor does. So like, why is that an amazing thing? That you're just like, oh, this proves it. We don't need to talk about the scandals. We don't need to talk about how megachurch pastors are so flawed. Like, we don't have to talk about how it's unbiblical because look, this guy gave to the poor. This guy started nonprofits. This guy, he showed up at his church. Like, not great examples, but every pastor does that. Even a pastor tithes. Think about that. Like, most of these pastors, like just normal pastors, not just megachurch pastors, normal pastors, they're not making that much money. Most pastors aren't. But then they also tithe on top of that. So they give, a portion back to the church for charity as well. So what are we doing? Josh Howton, what he's trying to do is to be like, don't come at me. Right? Don't come at me. I know some guys and they're great guys, and there might be great guys, but every pastor knows great pastors, right? Like, that's not surprising. It's not like saying, oh, you shouldn't go at these megachurch pastors because whatever. But what is he trying to do? He's trying to represent his home team, which is megachurch pastor, and he very much wants to be known as megachurch pastor. That has become abundantly clear to me. If you look at anything that Josh Howton has been writing over the last couple of years and what he does on social media, it is very clear that he considers himself a megachurch pastor and that he is like the representative for all megachurch pastors. Let's be clear about a few things. Josh Howton hasn't grown anything. All right. Now, I'm not trying to be mean, but I've had enough people from his church contact me and tell me like, hey, look into the history of our church. They hired Josh Howton when they were a mega church. All right. When you look at his church before that, it was growing, but it wasn't a mega church. Like this church that he's now pastoring down in Texas, he was hired for that. And there's some other stuff of some of the things that he said that they were going to do, and they weren't about that. So like, there's a lot there. And I think it's about time that we start recognizing when someone gets up on a platform and they just constantly talk about this one thing, like they're trying to gain a platform from that thing. All right. So Josh Howton doesn't have a lot going on. Like you're not going to be like, wow, what great theology from this guy, like, R.C. Sproul or something like that. He's not, the brash, like, in a way, statesman of like ultra conservatism that Mark Driscoll is. All right. I don't like him, but he does speak in a certain way that gathers people to him. That's not Josh Howton either. What he is that he got hired at a megachurch, and now he can be about that megachurch life and just send that out to social media and represent that all day long and go and attack everyone who goes at megachurch pastors or shares those scandal stories and says that there's anything to the fact that this is more common than you would think. And he's trying to say it's not common at all, because he knows these guys. One, we all have bubbles. even if that was true, and let's say that everyone that Josh Howton knows is a great pastor and is a pastor at a megachurch, like they're all fantastic. Great. What about that guy over there who knows 10 that are terrible, right? Or like even just again, his example of like, he's not a green room pastor guy. Well, that's assuming that there are green room pastor guys. And that just shows the pride that someone has to have to be hired by a church to pastor, which means to shepherd. Like it's literally like you with those people, walking them through life. And you're like, actually, I'm going to be back in the green room chilling because I have to prepare. Why do you have to prepare? Like you didn't have to do anything else. Like these aren't the pastors that are down, scrubbing the toilets and making sure, that there's enough toilet paper in that stall for when people come in on Wednesday night. Like these aren't those kinds of pastors. These are the guys who literally just get paid to write one sermon and then to do it a bunch, which is something. Like I haven't had to do like a bunch of different services. I was never a pastor at like a huge church, but I've had to do that a couple times where you do like 2 or 3 services. And I will say like that takes a lot out of you. And I'm not talking about Sunday school and, church and then Sunday night. I'm talking about like 3 services on the Sunday morning. That takes a lot out of you. So I will say like that's a lot of work. But that doesn't matter. There are people who need to be pastored, and that's the whole gig. It's not just getting up there and saying something really clever from the pulpit that you stole from Joby Martin. So it's just a little weird. Let's go into the chat and see what you guys are thinking about this. So let's start off here with, can you turn him up? Okay, I was a little concerned about the audio. I saw that it was a little bit lower, so I'll turn it up for the next thing. I don't think my pastor would get there at 6 a.m. Yeah, it's a little hard, especially if you have little ones. My pastor does 1 Saturday night service and 2 on Sunday mornings. Yeah. A lot of pastors do multiple services. All I'm hoping for is a stitch where a pastor leader actually repents and turns away from their behavior, attempting to make things right. That would be cause for rejoicing, wouldn't it be? Carol says, my church was collecting clothes. Awesome. Heidi says, he starts that video out saying something like, my conscience won't let me keep quiet. What is burning in his conscience? I don't know. That's something that only he would know. But to me, I'll just say from what I think is that that's a gimmick. Like the whole beginning to me was just set up for him to grab your attention. As someone who cares about social media and does things like this and has other channels where I'm a little like I'm way more gimmicky, that's a hook. Like what he tried to do was hook in his audience to listen. So he says, we're going to expose pastors, and this is burning in my conscience. I can't keep quiet about this anymore. All of that is to make people anticipate and want to see, what is he going to say? And then he goes into, Pastor A, B, and C. It's not clever. It's like, this is the thing that I like, why I say I just don't see the appeal of this guy. To me, it's very much like youth pastor on steroids kind of deal, where it's just like, I don't know, something about Jesus every 5 seconds, just like a Jesus juke that doesn't make any sense, but like it's a way to turn it. Like that's just kind of what he does all the time. So even on his social media, those hooks and everything, it always just comes across as desperate to me. Like you don't actually have a lot to say. You're just like high intensity and like doing all the things to try to keep people's attention for retention rate and all that. It's just, I don't get it. I really don't get it. Carol says at Christmas, they have Christmas gifts for the foster kids. Rad. One Girl Army says a pastor should be able to stoop down and take questions from a toddler. Can't do that from the green room or from towering above them from a stage. Sure you can. You can do it. And just have, like that video play. Like you can do it. That was a great question that you sent in via video, and I'm now answering in my office, during the week. Like I've seen that. It's just, that's not real. Did that work? I'm trying to get something to work on the side. I don't know if it worked or not. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I'm arguing that isn't a conscience issue. Yeah, I might be over laboring the word, but to me, this conscience is sacred. That's why it matters when you bind people's consciences. It used to mean something. Now it's just a way to get people's attention. Conscience language matters to me. Absolutely. And Aaron, what's up? Aaron Harding. LOL, you giving me chat rules. Yeah. I have to give you rules, especially you. Like, I don't know what you're going to say. You know, you can say anything. You mostly can. Just be nice. That's all. That's all the rules. I haven't checked out the rules in like 2 years. I don't even know what's in there. So who knows? Let's talk about something else. Let's get over into here. Again, sorry guys. I'm still like figuring out like the new tech stuff here. So I have something else that we're going to talk about, and it might be the reason why you clicked on this video. All right, let's take a look at it. So here we go. I don't know. Sometimes I really wonder, like, why even try? Like, these guys, they see everything as a victory. We'll get into that. All right, but this is from New St. Andrews. So a lot of you guys probably saw this on Twitter already. But here we go. To reform the West and recover its glory, blah, 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 blah. Here's a video.
Civilization. Wanted. Young men to rebuild Western civilization.
Oh.
Must be unafraid of pain, blisters, intellectual rigor, and a
really?
lifetime of long shifts with swords and shovels, digging ditches.
This is one I'm.
Invaders.
All right. We're not going to just watch the whole thing. We're going to react as we go through. All right. This is quite the statement here. All right. Long shifts.
Shifts with swords.
With swords, and he shows a camera. Like, you remember like that video of a pastor who's just like mad at his congregation, and he starts talking about like the guy who's building a kingdom in the video room. Like that's what this is. Like that's where like that guy, whoever was building that kingdom in the video room, he went to Idaho and got hired with Canon Press and New St. Andrews, and they're all basically the same thing. But like you think you're really important when you're just like, this camera that I have, it's a sword, and I'm going to fight in the war.
And shovels, digging ditches, repelling invaders, and reading stacks of books taller than their fathers. Must be impervious to.
That's not that many books, by the way. Like, I mean, like they showed a big stack, but 6 feet of books isn't like, that's like 2 shelves. It's not that much.
Manipulative women of all sorts.
Oh, no.
Giggling virgins, cyber skanks, and even full cauldrons of Karens or hand-wringing clergy, but always seeking to hear and heed the words of Lady.
All right. Again, I am not like the most articulate person, and I don't do like the grammar police thing all the time. But these people, like Truth Over Tribe did this a while back when they were like putting all these spelling errors as they were like pointing out like how smart they were in something. That stuff always makes me laugh. This kind of stuff too, from like the whole Canon Press group, where they just like pride themselves on thinking that they are like super articulate and just like craftsmen with their words, and then they just go on running sentences like how many ands is in the sentence? I just want you to think about that. Like, let's go back over here. All right, I know this is the wrong thing to point out, but this is my channel, and this is the kind of stuff I care about.
All sorts, giggling virgins, cyber skanks, and even full cauldrons of Karens or hand-wringing clergy.
And also, or. Like, okay.
But always seeking to hear and heed the words of Lady Wisdom. Immune to the leadership of hypocrites and LARPing online masculinitats.
In what world is Joel Osteen still relevant? All right. Like, I know for like maybe like that 85-year-old random lady in your church who still watches all CBN or TBN, depending on where you're at. And it's like, oh, I watch Joel Osteen every week. Like there's one in every church. Okay. But who is looking at Joel Osteen for leadership? All right. They say like the leadership of hypocrites. And they're like, Joel Osteen. What? And then Tate, like, and what? I would love to see a conversation between those two. No, I wouldn't. That would be terrible.
Affected by abusive authorities, petty professors, and all brokers of official respectability.
Did you see that? They were doing the demon eyes thing. Like, isn't it? It's like from a drawing of something. Is that from C.S. Lewis? Is that Screw Tape? Or like there's some famous drawing of a demon and they're putting it over Russell Moore. Okay.
Willing to hoist the Jolly Roger and Johnny Cash's favorite finger.
Whoa! Oh, no! He paused it on it. Well, here we are. You saw it. They like the flipping of the bird, apparently. Here's the thing. Johnny Cash was rad. He was super rad. And he only did that line once. And most of the time he was pretty dang conservative about everything else. But for some reason, a lot of these guys who view themselves as like the epitome of macho-ness, which like one isn't a word, but also it's just like, really, you guys, you think that you're macho? Like, I don't know. Like maybe if you don't watch TV and you just walk around in this little town of Moscow, who cares? But if you just walk around in that little town, maybe you're like, oh, we're masculine. We're so masculine. But if you like turn on a TV and then you look at these guys, you're just like, I don't know. But they always like to think of themselves as Johnny Cash. Like, I don't like it when they take things like it's like, I got to imagine, like, I'm not a cowboy. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I'm more of like a punk skater kind of guy than I am like a cowboy going on a ranch, Yellowstone kind of fella. Like, but I got to imagine those guys are pretty ticked like about like this weird thing that's happened in conservative circles where they just kind of like took everything about that culture and just like applied it to themselves. And they're just like, well, I'm a cowboy. And it's like, bro, Joel Webbin, you're from New Jersey. Like, what are you talking about? You're a cowboy and that you're like so Texan. It's like you're from New Jersey. Or you were wearing flip-flops and looked like Darren Patrick 5 years ago in California. Like, what are you talking about? You're a cowboy now. Or Mark Driscoll wearing cowboy hats and boots and talking about his Bronco and like always taking videos when he's up in the mountains. And it's like, are there mountains in Arizona? Like, I mean, like some, but not like cowboy mountains. But he's like that. And then you just like flash back to Seattle and he's wearing puka shells and driving an Escalade, you know, in circles around the Space Needle talking to King 5 News, you know. Like, are we not supposed to remember this stuff? But I hate that they've taken Johnny Cash and they're like, this is our guy now. It's like Johnny Cash was like, they would, if he was around now, they would call him so woke. Like, you look at all the stuff, like they were arguing whether Johnny Cash was saved back in the day because he was so liberal about some things. Like, I remember those conversations, and now they're just like, oh, you're going to flip the bird? All right, so let's talk about that. I'm sorry if there are some people who are super offended by seeing that flipping of the bird, and just know we're looking at it from a research perspective. What is this? We got, isn't kind of ironic that they're warning of giggling virgins on top of being incredibly sexist. I feel like their use of virgin as a slur is counterintuitive to even their movement. Great point here. That's very true. Like, if they're not married, don't you want them to be? Like, if you believe in what the Bible talks about for sexuality, don't you want that? Like, why are you condemning them? But all right, let's talk a little bit about this whole idea of flipping the bird. because there are going to be people who will say, like, a Christian should not ever, give someone the middle finger. And then they would take that into a conversation about cussing and vulgarity. Can a Christian cuss? Should they cuss? How vulgar can a Christian be? Let no corruptible speech proceed from your mouth, but just for edifying. Like, that's what a Christian should be. That's what Paul talks about, right? I've talked about it a few times. I think I even have a video standout somewhere on my channel about Christians and cussing, so I won't go into the full thing of it. But I will just say there is a big difference between using vulgar language and cursing someone, or biblically. There's a big difference between those two things. You will see tons of people that you would qualify as being godly or being Christians, or the Old Testament equivalent of that, believing in God, following after God, and use vulgar language in the Bible. Paul does, right? Like, you're like, these things are a pile of dung. Like, the word that he uses, it's not a nice word. It's vulgar. So, like, there are a couple passages that would be like that you have some vulgar language being used. But there is a big difference between that and telling someone, for example, if you've got little ones, I'm thinking of the goings. I don't know, you're sitting on your couch. You might want to turn the volume down a little bit. All right, so a little warning for some people. I like to give people warnings because I don't like to surprise people, although I kind of did with that video. My bad. I should have stopped it and just been like, hey, just so you know. But you saw the thumbnail. Saying go to hell for somebody. Like, if you say for someone to go to hell, you mean it. Like, you mean condemnation toward that person. Now, maybe you do in your heart of hearts want them actually to burn in hell. There is a real problem with that. Especially as a Christian, you should love your enemies. So loving your enemies doesn't look like, I wish you were in hell right now. All right. Like, that's pretty basic. But just even as a person, like, that's not a good thing. Like, go get, hit by a bus, or something like that. A little different than, don't let the door hit you on, the backside as you leave, like that kind of stuff. Okay. But when you're condemning someone in a spiritual way that you would want them to actually go to hell, that is just, I would say, forbidden for Christians. It goes against the whole ethos of a Christian. We are to be heralds of good news. Condemning someone like that is not the way of Jesus. Vulgarity aside, like, again, I think that Christians can use cuss words when it is appropriate, when it is not irregular, when it is, depending on who your audience is in that moment. I think that there are moments like that. But to go as far as to curse someone, which the middle finger is, that's just what it means, like, I'm not, I don't think I'm being too much of a, prude to be like, the word, like, that idea means what it means. It is what it is. Just because Johnny Cash did it once doesn't mean we should. And because you're essentially saying for someone to go to hell. And that would be a curse. That biblically, that would fall into the category of cursing someone. Now, will they go to hell because of that? No. Like, there's no power behind that. But the intention of our heart, God cares about. And so I think that using something like that and saying for that to happen, in meaning it, that means something. And whether you're joking with a friend and you give them the middle finger just as a joke and they know, like, I think arguments could be made around that, and whether you can use that just between the two of you, understanding that neither of you means that. I think that there's conversations that could be had. But the idea here, the idea of this whole ad is essentially this idea of going to war with culture. It's outward. This isn't even about amongst Christians. All right. There's some language that they use about Christians, or at least people who would profess to be Christians. But make no mistake about it, when they put demon eyes on Russell Moore, they're not saying he's a born again believer. They're saying he's outside the camp. Joel Osteen, when they talk about him being a hypocrite, they're also saying he's, from outside the camp. They're going to treat him as an unbeliever. And what they are arguing for, what they want from, these young men, is to have them come and be a part of this army that they're putting together to go to war with these people and to flip the bird to this idolatry. Now, if it was like back in the day, a literal like monument that people worshiped, a pile of rocks, and you wanted to flip the bird to that pile of rocks, debates could be had. But when they're talking about idolatry, like this is the picture that they're talking about. These are people. You don't have to agree with the people, but these are people. The people that they showed before. That's who they're talking about. All right, let's play this just for a minute.
Long-suffering joy and determination required. Must be willing to dwell among the tombs and graves of the long dead. Seeking truths that cannot die. Exhaustion guaranteed. Conflict guaranteed. Mortality guaranteed. New St. Andrews College. Liberal arts for the undaunted.
So this idolatry that they're trying to go to war with is not some vague idea of a false religion. It's people. It's people that you can see. And what they want to do is flip the bird to those people, to condemn those people. In this, did you see anything about the good news of Jesus Christ? I don't know if you've heard about this thing, but there's this thing called the gospel. And Jesus, he told us to go out with that gospel. Once we believe in him, once we follow him, once we are going on that way with him, we're actually supposed to give this good news to the world. Because no longer do they need to be condemned. They can believe in Christ, be forgiven of their sins, trust in him, and follow along with us on this way with Jesus. Like that's what we should be about. The commercials that we make for our institutions that we start, they should represent that. We have a good and hopeful message. We don't have to go to war. Conflict guaranteed. No, it isn't. Like that's not guaranteed, not in that way. But what are they trying to do? They're trying to bring out this odd sense of adventure that is buried within young men. This reason why we love heroes like Indiana Jones or Luke Skywalker or some of like the best heroes in movie history, or why as a young man you might be super interested in Rome. Rome. I'm thinking about the Romans. You might be thinking about the centurions. You might be thinking about like some great war and conflict as a young guy, and young women as well. But they're trying to focus on these men and trying to get like those people that still have that of where they think like I could achieve great things and I just need to like go out there and, using the language that some of these guys really love to use, slay the dragon. All right. They want to slay that dragon. They want the conflict. They haven't learned to be quiet yet. They just want to be blunt and brash and bold. And they're trying to get that from these young men and say, come here and fight with us, because it's a real fight. And these young men haven't learned enough about life and haven't been discipled enough by their pastors, by other men in their life, maybe even women in their life. Shocker. All right. But they haven't been mentored enough to understand that there is a way to use that sense of adventure, that sense of, just, I want to be that person standing against the enemy. Like that, like Captain America in Endgame going against Thanos and his entire army. and Captain America just standing there. There's something in us that goes like, that resonates with that and wants to be that one person standing up against all that conflict. There's something within, I think, specifically young men, and especially these types of young men, that there's something in us that resonates with that. And they're trying to speak to that. This is marketing, and it's wrong marketing, and it's gross marketing, and it's not Christian marketing, because it's actually going against what Christ wants us to be in this world. We are not supposed to be pot stirrers. Like, there's something that sometimes you do have to shake people awake, like on this channel, we do that. And we try to get people's attention with like how something is wrong or why something is wrong. But as far as like to the world, there is a difference in how we can pot stir amongst Christians. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's bad. A lot of times it's bad. Sometimes it can be good and helpful to, bring someone's blind spots up and be like, hey, have you seen this stuff? You haven't seen it because it's your blind spot. Like sometimes that's effective. But a lot of times when we do that toward the world, what we're really trying to say is, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm good, you suck, and then flip the bird to them. How are we going to get like anyone who would see this? Because this isn't just to Christian Twitter, all right? There's no filter that you could put on these things to just say, I only want this to go to the Christians. So there are going to be people who are going to see this that are not Christians, and they're going to say, what the heck is up with these people in Idaho who want to fight me? And why are they trying to get all these young men to come over there and battle with me? And why are they flipping me the bird? Like, I thought Christians were supposed to be the ones who were nice and charitable. Like, this isn't the way of Jesus. This isn't the way of Jesus, to condemn people in that way. And again, this isn't vague ideas of idolatry and false religion. These are specific people that they're going at, and they're trying to get those radical young men to abandon their church, which is troubling. All right. Because this isn't a place, like, you don't go to Idaho and then go out. Like, I know a lot of pastors who I disagree with a lot of what they teach, but they go to Masters and they hang out with Johnny Mack for a few years and his homeboys, and then they go and they get sent out. And I know a lot of those pastors disagree with a lot, but they preach the gospel. All right. I don't know any of these Idaho guys who go to Idaho and then like move somewhere else. Right? Like, they stay there. Like they're building something there. They're not heralds of good news. They're hoarders of radical extremism. Like, that's what they're doing. They're just bringing it all in. And they're doing it with marketing like this because it speaks to these people that they want. And then they can use that as a tool. And we'll look at that here in just a sec. Well, I want to see what some of you guys are thinking about all this. Obviously, people were upset about it. For me, I wasn't upset as far as seeing the image, because I've seen it 1,000 times because Johnny Cash. But the idea of Christians using that to go and market themselves is super troubling. Like, the idea of anyone using it, like, whatever, you can debate about it, but a Christian organization saying this is what we want to do, this is what we want to be about, this is the posture that we want to have toward the world, to me is just like so different from what I look at and see with Jesus in the Gospels. And this is the thing that I've been struggling with a lot when it comes to these Christian nationalists and these kinds of leaders, is they just don't talk about Jesus. Like, ever. When was the last time you heard a Christian nationalist actually talk about the person of Jesus? Not say Christ, or not say Christ is king, but actually talk about Jesus. Like, sure, they might preach on the passage where Jesus is there, but they don't preach Jesus. All right, they preach Christ. Now, you also need to preach Christ. Like, you can't just look at Jesus and say, okay, there's no authority there. He's just a person. We could take, examples of how to live a moral life from him. That's troubling too. But you can't leave that completely outside of your preaching. And these guys do it all the time. And they especially do it when it comes to the marketing. And it's just, they don't have any Jesus. And like Spurgeon said, if you're if your sermon doesn't have Jesus, go home and preach no more until you have a Jesus worth preaching. So maybe they should do that. Also, one last thing about that video, I'll just say, we'll look at their little round table that they have about it, and it's very telling. Like, there's one aspect that's super telling. But I will say, I'm getting a little tired of the people ripping off Van Neistat like we don't watch his videos. Some of you guys might know Casey Neistat. He does like the vlogs. He was in New York and then he went to California. I think he's back in New York making vlogs. He's pretty much like the king of vlogs on YouTube, but he has a brother named Van, and his brother is very much like, I make everything by hand, DIY everything. And it's really, I don't know if hipster is the right word anymore, but like 10 years ago, we would have called him a hipster. But he's just a guy who's quirky and talks a little funny and makes things on his own and is often using the same kind of language that you see in marketing, like the Canon Press stuff. So these guys, I think they think that they're so creative, but anyone who watches things, like, you can often see past that and see you're just stealing Van Neistat stuff. Like even the cadence that they had this guy talking about, this manliness, and what they're looking for, wanted. It sounds just like Van Neistat. And I would be shocked if you were to talk to the person who came up with this ad, and learn that he's never heard of Van Neistat. It's just very much the same. So a lot of these guys, it's not just Josh Howton that plagiarizes. There's a lot of them. But let's go up here and see what you guys are saying. So we got Sarah saying, I feel like there's been a huge switch in the acceptance of flipping the bird and cursing. Suddenly it's okay, and I feel confused. Yeah. And again, like, I think that there are moments where it might even be appropriate for a Christian to use vulgar language. All right. But cursing someone is very different. And especially when there's no jokes aside. Like, again, giggling about Jack Black saying read between the lines in School of Rock might be funny, but going up to someone who cuts you off as a Christian and flipping the bird are very different things. And, they would look at this and say, well, why can you laugh at that? And they even say it in their roundtable, like, why can you laugh at something like that, but you condemn Christians who would do it and say, like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. We'll look at that. One Girl Army says, it's Jesus and John Wayne. Like, literally, it's pretty much what they're all about. I like how that video was all about Jesus, right? Like, where is he? Where is he? That's why they called it New St. Andrews in the first place. Make themselves look important. The real St. Andrews, farts in their general direction. Nice. You got a Monty Python. I got a VHS of Monty Python right here. That's Monty Python. And Search for the Holy Grail. Let's go down a little bit. I want to get some of you guys' thoughts. Israel. What's up, Israel? When I slammed my car door on my thumb, I said a few ungodly words. Good thing only my dog was near to hear. Okay. How's your thumb doing? Is it all right? Lukewarm No More says Barbara Streisand. When did that what happened with Barbara? It's late. Kids are in bed. Good thing. Aaron says, I never get upset with a vulgar word being used in a funny context, even though I wouldn't do it. But when it calls someone names, to try to stomp them down or make them feel small, always a telltale. Yeah. I think it does really speak to what you're actually trying to accomplish when you do that. And the idea of Christians using just like that kind of flippancy, and pun, I guess, intended, but like, you're just so flippant about that idea of cursing somebody. It's super troubling to me. It doesn't sound like someone who cares about people, like, and again, I don't know these people as people. Like, I just know them by their internet, basically history, of tweeting things and the things that they say in videos. But, if you look at all those and you look at this, I mean, you can't really look at Idaho and say what Jesus says, they shall know me by their love. I don't know anyone who would say that about Moscow. Like, they aren't known for their love at all. And that's not to say like there might be people that just don't like you. I have people that don't like me. All right. So not everyone would be like, oh, he's known for his love. There might be some people out there that feel a certain way about me. Maybe some famous YouTubers who send me buttloads of messages that don't like something I said in the video. That's going to happen. But at the end of the day, like, what about the people that are in your context? What do they say about you? And also, like, even just on the online thing, what are you generally known for? Like, do people generally like you? Do people generally think that you bring some positivity into conversations? And most importantly, as a Christian, that you represent Jesus well? If that's generally what people think about you, you might have a few retractors, some people that don't like you, some people that block you on Twitter. That might happen. But when you have basically everyone looking at a certain context and being like, don't go over there, it's probably time to look in the mirror, but not for people like this. One Girl Army, I don't think we have harsh enough language for some of the most horrible people in our society. I think we got a lot. What's going on with this chat? It went all over. Heidi says, I seem to recall that New St. Andrews enrolls women. Such a clear exclusion. I seem to recall that New St. Andrews enrolls women. Such a clear exclusion here of what their appeal to women would be. Well, to support and to cook the meal. One Girl Army says, this conflict-driven message drives missions as well. There were young men in Bible colleges who wanted to be martyred for the sake of the cause, but it seemed to be fame-driven. Yeah, they all heard the Stephen Curtis Chapman song, and they will abandon it all for the sake of the call. Also, the idea of the call is it's a prophet. No pastor is called in that way. You wanted a job. You got qualified for the job. You got voted in for the job. You were not called. You are not Samuel. All right. You're not David. Uncle Doug, how dare you make me say that lukewarm no more? How dare you?
Big yikes.
Wants to be the Christian version of Jordan Peterson. I don't like, again, I've watched maybe a grand total of 45 minutes of Jordan Peterson, and most of that is waiting, like him waiting while the guy who's introducing the podcast is talking, just so I could look at the background. All right. That's what I watch YouTube for. I'm a background junkie. But yeah, that guy seems so much nicer. And I don't think that guy's a Christian. So let that say what you want. So Sims, hey Dean, hey everyone. Sorry I missed so much.
What's up, fam?
These pastors act like J-Mac. They are not their own person. These guys just act like Doug Wilson. I think that you're going to find that pretty much all across the board in evangelicalism right now. You just have like pockets. In the pockets, they all just act like the biggest guy in that pocket. All right. Like they just copy him, do whatever he does. They sound the same. I've noticed this ever since, like, I don't listen to Paul Washer, never been a fan of Paul Washer. I always find him too emotional. Some of you guys who've watched for a long time, you've heard me rant about that before. Just don't like it. Don't like his preaching. Don't think he's a great preacher. Very manipulative, but people don't talk about manipulation when somebody speaks, preaches expository sermons. That's only the charismatics that do that. It's pretty manipulative. Anyways, ever since like I heard a few of his sermons back in the day, you could hear it. The way that he says God, if you hear a pastor, and I've seen this in real life, a pastor or Bible college student more often the case, they will sound just like the favorite guy. They will just copy him. Like you saw it back in the day. I saw it in the Pacific Northwest, everyone copying Mark Driscoll. And you see it today in the same way. Like people copy J-Mac, people copy Paul Washer, people copy Tim Keller, people copy their favorite guy. And they're all just following after. It's a little weird. Aaron says, Masters is exactly like NSA. Exactly. The only ideology that separates them is their eschatology. I mean, back in the day, I would have said, no. But it seems to be the case more and more. So Sims, hey, Heidi. Just nobody wants to talk to me. Rudy says, Dean, you should do a reaction video of Chris Gordon's recent debate interview with Doug Wilson. But that would mean that I would have to watch it, Rudy. I don't want to watch it. I don't know who Chris Gordon is. I don't watch debates. I find them to be pointless. I've never, again, this is just me. This might just be my own, little bubble. I've never known anybody who was brought to Christ from watching a debate. I've never seen anyone reasoned into the kingdom. Like, as in they were like waiting to become a Christ follower until they got this one answer from, some aspect of theology, ideology, whatever. And then they're just like, now I'm a Christian. I've never seen it. I think it's pointless. I don't think that people are evangelized in that way. Oftentimes the people that I've seen do that kind of thing, and like the people who've promoted themselves as being former atheists, now I'm a Christian. A lot of times they go like, well, now the next big thing that like, they're just, I don't know. Again, this is just me. This is my own opinion. I could be way off base, but I find that a lot of these guys are intellectual junkies, as in like they just get excited about an intellectual argument. And like they'll go until something else becomes exciting, and it's like the new shiny thing. And so people who get swayed into that kind of stuff, and they go like from atheist to Christian, Eastern Orthodox to, like now just some vague form of, spirituality. Like I see in a lot of that kind of stuff, but I've never personally known somebody who was reasoned into the kingdom. I don't think it happens. But I just like, and it just goes against my personality. I'm not in for that kind of stuff. So no, I won't be doing that. Let me just make sure. Okay. My wife just sent me a picture that came up on her Facebook. This is your boy in Bible college beating my sister-in-law with a rake because we were cleaning. That's a throwback. All right. Rocking a Volcom hat in this one, in that one. No Vans. All right. That's why see, we'll do that so I can represent. Okay. Let's see. Agree with you 100% on Paul Washer. Appreciate that. Barbara Streisand means BS. Never mind, Dean. I don't get everything. I can't multitask. Heidi says, Dean, they're all here to talk to me. I kid. We know that's not true. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. All right, let's be honest in the chat. If I was doing a stream and Heidi was doing a stream at the same time, where would you go? I think I know the answer. And you know what? I'd probably end my stream. I'd probably end my stream and go hang out over there too. Michael Foster went to GPTS. I don't know what that is. Rudy says Christ is a reform minister in Escondido, California, who took Doug to task. Oh, okay. That other guy, Chris Gordon. Okay. R. Scott Clark's pastor. Okay. People who go to Grace don't live next to the church. They live in Santa Clarita Valley. Yeah, there's a lot of people who travel. I would assume for a lot of these megachurch pastors, they would just travel. As someone who has dealt with anger issues in the past, Christians shouldn't stick middle fingers up. Yeah. I like, again, a debate can be had if you're talking about people who know that they don't mean it that way. But these people do mean it that way. And they mean it against people. It's not vague ideas. It's not like they're going up to like a stack of rocks and being like, ha, guy. Like, they're not doing that. Like, they're talking about people. They're saying it about Russell Moore. He was just in the shop before that. Like, that's who they're sticking the middle finger up at. And that's what they're promoting. That's what they want. They want these young men. So let's actually take let's take a little look over here, and we'll switch things up in here in just a sec. I need a sweet beans of glory. It's one of my phrases. Okay, I don't know if I've ever said that on a stream. I said it way too much, but I've never wanted to say it on a stream, but I just did. Sweet beans of glory. All right. Let's take a look at these guys, because I guess we have to. All right, here we go. Should we? I think we have to. Okay, we're doing it.
Faced with idolatry, that is the question. And the NSA ad says that you should hoist the Jolly Roger and you should be ready with Johnny Cash's favorite finger or something close to that.
Just qualifier there. It says you should be willing to.
Only be willing. And I thought it was interesting that, you're not out even chasing down idolatry. You're not even going out and trying to find the strongholds and tear them down. You were actually faced with idolatry. You're in the passive position. It popped up in front of you. What should you do? Well, you should give it 20% of a wave, is what the NSA ad said to do, and that has caused quite a lot of controversy, so we thought it would be good for us to talk about this. I was thinking today, if there were any little boy that were mouthing off, we would say something like, hey, you kiss your mama with that mouth? That's where I grew up. That was what you did. And I imagine people want to say, hey, NSA, would you salute Jesus with that hand? And I imagine that our position would be that, yes, the same hand with which we flick the bird to idolatry is the same hand with which we turn and salute Jesus. Wow. So, okay.
Sometimes I watch these videos, and again, I'm not the smartest guy, okay? That's not why I do these videos. It's not because I think I have, the source of truth for all things, and I'm the smartest guy in the room. I know I'm not, okay? People here in the chat are probably smarter than me, okay? I get it. But sometimes I watch a video and I go, how can we be any dumber? This is so wrong. All right, first off, let's talk about this idea of them saying being willing to. We all know what you're willing to do because you showed it. What is this caveat? As if they didn't show the picture. They're like, we didn't say you should. We didn't say you should. We only said you'd be willing to. Okay, well, you did. It's like my son's spilling something. And they're like, I didn't mean to. Well, you did, bud. It's all over the floor. We said be willing to, but you showed it. You showed it right after you showed Russell Moore. We know what you want. Also, okay, he says, saluting Jesus. I don't know about you guys, but when I've read the Bible, I have never seen someone salute Jesus. I don't think, if I see Jesus, I'm not saluting Jesus. All right. I am hugging him. I am holding on to his feet like frickin' Mary. Okay. I am adoring my Savior. I'm not going to go hail Jesus. No, I mean, yes, we should worship God. And there is a certain posture in that, but we have a personal God. He is not just a God sitting on a throne. He's Jesus. I'm not saluting Jesus. I'm hugging him. I'm letting him hold me, man. I love Jesus. It's not, I respect Jesus. Yes, there is a sense of reverence in that love, but I love Jesus. So I'm going to hold on to him like I would a dear friend, not going to salute him like he's the general of an army. All right. Read your Bible. Read your Bible. Look at Revelation. Yes, he is, riding on a horse. He's got a sword on his thigh. All right. Like that's Jesus too. All right. But you look, he's going to wipe every tear from every eye. I've never known a military leader who does that. All right. I don't know someone you would salute who would come over and wipe away your tears. That is intimate. All right. That's my Jesus. My Jesus isn't someone I'm going to salute. My Jesus is someone I'm going to hug. And all right, let's listen to that part again. And then I want to show you something.
You should give it 20% of a wave is what the NSA ad said to do. And that has caused quite a lot of controversy. So we thought it would be good for us to talk about this. I was thinking today, if there were any little boy that were mouthing off, we would say something like, hey, you kiss your mama with that mouth? That's where I grew up. That was what you did. And I imagine people want to say, hey, NSA, would you salute Jesus with that hand? And I imagine that our position would be that, yes, the same hand with which we flick the bird to idolatry is the same hand with which we turn and salute Jesus.
I'd like for you guys to read a little bit. I don't know if these guys have read the Bible, but that is almost directly wrong. Like, he almost quotes scripture in being wrong. All right, let's look here, James 3, verse, let's start off with verse 10. Blessing and cursing comes out of the same mouth. My brothers and sisters, these things should not be this way. Let me say that again. Blessing and cursing come out of the same mouth. My brothers and sisters, these things should not be this way. Does a spring pour out sweet and bitter water from the same opening? Can a fig tree produce olives, my brothers and sisters, or a grapevine produce figs? Neither can a saltwater spring yield fresh water. Let's go up. I didn't read enough. Verse 9. With the tongue we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in God's likeness. And then later, these things ought not to be. That is almost directly what I forget the Baptist retractor, the guy who bailed on the Southern Baptist Convention when he didn't get further along in the leadership and then went up to Idaho. It's almost directly wrong. And you heard Doug Wilson say, wow, as if like he agrees. And it's like almost directly like not what scripture says, like word for word. All right. These things ought not to be like, no. All right. If you want to use this weird analogy of saluting, all right, no, you should not salute Jesus and flip the bird at the same time. It's literally what James wrote about. It's like, don't do this. And they're like, let's do it. Isn't this great? I just thought of this analogy. You know what that is? That is a kid who memorized King James verses back in the day. And he just gets like this hint of what a text is in that day. And just like, I think this is an original idea. And that goes out and says it. And it's like, oh, you just quoted scripture. But it's just like this time it just bit him in the butt. No. Christians ought not to bless God with their mouths and then curse people made in his likeness. All right, that is literally what the scriptures say. And flipping the bird, you could joke about it, like you could giggle about, oh, flipping the bird, that's funny. It means trying to send someone to hell. That's the message, is to send someone to hell. I want you to be in hell. That is literally a curse. It's different than saying the A word. It's different than saying the S word. It's different from a lot of different things that are vulgar, and you can argue about whether Christians should partake in that kind of language or not. It literally is the meaning of this thing, this symbol. And so for you to say, I'm going to salute Jesus and flip the bird is directly biblically wrong. I don't know how some people get away with this kind of stuff. Like, I doubt, all these guys who in every one of my videos where, I haven't said everything perfectly. Sometimes I misquote something. I'm a person. I'm flawed. I'm doing things live. So, sometimes I'm going to make mistakes and people will point out my mistakes. I guarantee you none of these guys who watch these videos are going to be like, actually, that's almost directly quoted from scripture and just the wrong way. But they don't care.
So if that indeed is the case, we should get into why it is the case. But before getting into the deep end, why did we even do this ad? What was the ad actually about?
What was
why
this about?
ad and why now?
This is insightful.
Yeah, so the beginning of this one came with a bit of a conversation between Nate and myself. I was suggesting the Shackleton ad,
Yep.
I believe, late 19th century ad that runs in a British newspaper, describing a challenge in the most hopeless of ways, and yet doing so in such a way that it evokes a certain response from a very, very certain subclass of men. That is, men who are drawn to adventure and for whom adversity is actually it invigorates them and gets them excited. And I think that is there's something really powerful about that. And I did Cross Politic yesterday and was talking about how I remember a Marine Corps recruiting poster I saw that said, two things, our expectations, your abilities, guess which one will change. And I remember as a young man seeing that and just being so compelled by that just called me. I wanted that. But what was weird was showing that same ad to other people and watching a positive revulsion, actually offended at the ad because of there was a machismo to it or something that just put them off. And I realized what an effective recruitment strategy that was for the Marine Corps and for Shackleton, where right there you've eliminated a whole bunch of people that you don't want to have come.
It's not just an attractive ad, it's a filter.
Yeah, it
filters.
It is a filter, and I do think that that's something that the NSA marketing has done well for us. Has been there is a certain squeamishness that has not been helpful for the church. That I think we need. We don't want that in leadership. There's a certain kind of just raw machismo that I think we actually want to be actively recruiting. Now, you don't want to leave it as raw machismo. You want to give it an education. You want to grow it up and mature it. You want it to glorify God. But there's a raw material that we're looking for, and I think that that's what that, when Nate and I were talking, that's what I was looking for, I think, was delivered.
Yep.
Great wisdom from that guy. That's Doug Wilson's son, who some people say is a Hollywood guy. What has he done in Hollywood? Let me know in the chat. I've never heard of him. But all right. It's marketing. All they do the amount of time that Canon Press and everyone in Moscow has taken in marketing is insane. They're always marketing. Everything is marketing. Here, what they're trying to do, they're saying what we've been great at is filtering out the people that we don't want. Any marketing does that. Any marketing. It's just you saying what you want in any way will have people immediately look at that thing who get shown it and go, either I want that or not. So any marketing is filter. So they try to act like this. They're so smart with this stuff. And just as someone I care about graphic design and I do care about marketing. I like marketing. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to try to get people to, rally around an idea or give them something that they like and that speaks to them. That's kind of fun. But to manipulate, that's where I draw the line. The whole idea of clickbait, that's you're manipulating people. And what he just said there is that they are wanting to manipulate the just ignorance of children, essentially. These kids who are somewhere in a church and they need to go and find a Bible college or whatever. They feel called by God to, go out and be in ministry, or to be a part of that, or to learn more about their faith. And what he's doing there is he's saying that we're manipulating that sense that they have of wonder and that sense of adventure and wanting to accomplish something. And, it's the reason why people share that GIF of the Kit Harington guy from Game of Thrones. But it's him with the sword against like all the people coming at him, and like people share that GIF all the time. The reason why is because there's something in us that we like that. We like that. Like what I was talking about, Captain America and Endgame. Like there's something to us that we just like that, and we resonate with that. And what he's saying is we're manipulating that to try to get people to come to our school. And that's what this ad is. And they're acting like it's a brilliant thing, which again, that's just what marketing is. Marketing is telling people a message and having them react to that message, either positively or negatively. As long as you are clearly representing your message, that's good marketing. Like, because it's going to filter. So like them being like, it also filters. Yeah, anything does. But like what they're trying to say is we're manipulating young men. And again, we want them to come out from where they're at. We could use that. We need more tools in our shed to be able to, fix this problem. And so we just want those guys. Let's listen a little bit more.
Okay.
It's interesting when you advertise, and especially in a format like this where you are saying wanted. Like, what do we want? What are we advertising for? We have a need, and we are looking for a particular kind of man. And then we get this outrage from a bunch of people who are not those particular kinds of men. And what they've done is they've immediately self-selected themselves out quickly as the kind of people who will fold on the battlefield.
And they've augmented the ad.
Yeah, and that's the best part of it, is we're sitting here talking about an ad because thousands of other people were talking about the ad. The ad's effectiveness is in appeal to the right kind of young man that the college would like to recruit, deterrent for the kind of person that we don't want to be on the battlefield with. And then also,
no one wants to be on the battlefield with you. Look around. Remember how like just a couple months ago they were talking about this embargo, that there's an embargo against us, and they were whining about it. And now they're being like, it's actually on purpose. Like, you can't have it both ways. Either there's an embargo and you're just being contained, or, you're, effective marketers because you're getting a lot of people who say, I don't want this. I don't know about that. But the spin is interesting. The spin is very interesting to be like, this is actually brilliant by us because now we have people talking about it. I will say that there is a sense of truth in there. Like some of these guys, Dale Partridge, we could have easily talked about, 10 of his tweets during this stream. Like every day, the guy saved up all his nastiest stuff for a year, and now he's putting it out there, and he's still like probably spending 2 hours a day writing in notebooks all his nasty thoughts about, the meanest way to put something, and just the worst. He's the worst Twitter guy out there. We could have easily talked about 10 of his tweets during this thing, and had a good time roasting it. But that doesn't make you a good marketer to get people upset at you. Like, there is a sense of, yes, there is rage stuff. You get people raging hard enough and it will be shared and you can gain more popularity. But let's be really frank, okay? Christian circles are small. Like, this idea of like Christian celebrity, I now understand that it isn't real. Like Francis Chan, maybe, like when you get high up there and you have like Matt Chandler, You know, like you have people like that, sure. But like Costi Hen, no celebrity. All right. You could talk to Costi. You know, these people, the Doug Wilsons of the world, like you could talk to them. They're not celebrities. Like it's just this idea of like, oh, you can gain more of a following. You're just helping us get our message out. Yeah, to 4 guys. You know, like you might get all the anonymous accounts, and let's be real, a lot of those guys who have anonymous accounts, they have 6 of them, you know, and they're liking their own stuff because now you don't know who liked something. So when you say a crazy tweet and it has an immediate like, you know that crazy person just liked their own tweet, you know, and then they got 6 other of their anonymous accounts to go and like it too. That's what these guys do. Like this world of Christians online is very small. You know, it's look at like the biggest Christian YouTubers. Like, I mean, their views are good, but for the sub count, like they should be getting way more views, right? Like it's a very small pond. So for them to be like, actually, they're really helping us because now they're going to get our message out to the right people. Who hasn't heard about Canon Press? Who doesn't know about Doug Wilson at this point? Like this, it's a little late in the game to be like, we're just now getting our message out to these people and these people helped us. That's a really convenient thing to say when everyone's ticked at you for doing something dumb. You know, just being like, you're really helping me. I don't know if it's just ego that they actually think that, or if it's just them covering their butts and being like, yeah, we did something dumb, but you know what? You know, it got the message out there. So I guess it's worth it. You know, like I think that there's probably a mixture of that, and that them just being like, yeah, you know, we need to be fighting. And if this is what rally troops to our side, so be it, you know, and we never wanted those people anyway. Really convenient thing when everyone doesn't want to be part of your team. I didn't want you on my team. Okay. You mean you didn't want the money from that college student who was on the fence and now goes like, oh, I'll probably go to Southern. Like, I think you did. I think you wanted that money. But nope. They never wanted them because they're just going to fall first in the battle. All right. If you are a veteran, are you ticked about their commandeering of this stuff? Like it's more than what the Bible does. I don't want to hear that of like, well, the Bible uses war motif to talk about, you know, the spiritual battle. These guys do it all the time for dumb stuff. They say a camera is a sword in their battle. Okay. Like it's stupid. For me, I've never been to war. I respect those who have fought for my freedoms, but it's just, I got to imagine you'd be ticked watching this stuff, but they just constantly go to that. And you're just like, you guys are sitting in a warehouse. You're all a bunch of white guys who get paid for talking and writing. Like, don't talk to me about like hard work and grit and grind. It's like you sit at a desk all day. All right.
Try to like platform and create the conversation that pushes the message as far as possible. So we had a very short little wanted ad, and it could have just run on a little feed and reached people that already knew about us. And instead, the people who hate us the most have incited by that finger first, and then by the other layers of the onion that they discovered thereafter, have spread the word. They've spread it, to the far reaches.
To hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Who already know who you are. Like, do these people think like, oh, there are millions out there who are on the fence of coming to Idaho? Like, there's four people that are on the fence about it. And they already know who Doug Wilson is, and this ad ain't helping anybody. Like, and for them to be like, it's actually a victory for us. All the people who hated us, they're just, they're just, our puppets, and we're just rage baiting them into sending out our message. Nuh-uh. And that's a thing. I'll use some Trump language. Okay. That's some loser mentality of just like, even if they think that, it's because they've lost so many times that they're like, this is just what we do now. Like we just go like, oh yeah, well, it's a win because everyone's ticked. They would have loved to have people be excited about it. And they would have loved for, I don't know, Kevin, what is his, Kevin DeYoung, to all of a sudden be like, you know what, I had, some little hurdles in getting my way over to Moscow, but this made it for me. I think this is worthwhile for young men. They would have loved that. They would have eaten that crap up. But no, here everyone didn't like it, and so they're just going, that was actually, we intended for that to happen the entire time.
Millions at this point. And it's like, it just in terms of how far that's gone now is fantastic. And I could say to every single critic, you don't have to want young men who are willing to hoist the Jolly Roger and Johnny Cash's favorite finger when faced with idolatry. You don't have to want that. We want that. You know those guys? You know guys like that? I know they're problems for you. I know they're a problem. Just
We'll take them out of your church.
send them out here.
We'll take them out of your church.
Send them out here.
We'll get the
It's that dog whistle mentality of like, you see that there's like an issue and you just kind of like, you don't say, yeah, be more of a jerk. Be more of a bull in a china shop at your local church for your pastor, the young man who's troubled and wants to think everything is a hill to die on. Like, just be more, chaotic in your church. But that's what they're sending. Like, that's the message that they're sending with this. Like, we'll take you. We want you. We want you. Nobody else wants you, but we want you. We want you to be, or calm down, young guy. Like, stop hurting everyone around you. Like, maybe you need to just sit and learn for a little bit before you start sharing all the videos on Facebook. Like, maybe just be quiet. Like, a guy who just got married and started a podcast about how to be a godly husband and father, maybe chill out for a minute and actually learn about what it means to be a good biblical dad, to care for your spouse. Like, before you go, like, actually as a provider, and I just want to protect, my family, and I'm just concerned about it. Just shut up for a minute and just learn. But here, these guys are saying like, ooh, come over here. We'll use you. Yeah, you'll have to be quiet and learn too. Like, you'll have to learn their way though, which is just more of the same garbage. But they're trying to be like, you can come over here and be yourself. And like, that's like, they're basically Disney right now. They would, I think actually in the last one, didn't Doug Wilson like flame, what's her face from Frozen, Elsa? Like, but they're going full Disney right now. Follow your heart, young man. And your heart, it's actually here. You left your heart in Moscow, Idaho. They want you. They want you.
But like, if we are a
I have to finish this paper. I'm swamped. No one told me college would be so...
If the college is trying to be a bull rider's school, if that's what we're trying to be, you want the kind of guys who see a killer bull and think, I wonder how long I could stay on that thing hanging on with just one hand. Like, how long could I...
I love how they nod. Like, they've all thought that. Oh, man. If this isn't virtue signaling, I don't know what is. Like, all these guys being like, you know what? Yeah, I've thought about that. What would it be like to ride a bull? You ride a bull? Yeah, I've ridden a bull. Look, whatever, guy. You spent 40 hours in your study all week reading books. Like, that's... I'm ride a bull. That's what these guys are. They're all masquerading as these guys who are manly men. No, you're not. All right. But that's what they want to do. They want to trick people. They want to trick these young men into abandoning their churches, foregoing sanctification, and just go like it. Just continue to be mean online and come over here and be mean online for us. Here's your camera, your sword, and now go fight with us. No, you don't get a microphone. No. Don't get a microphone. You get a camera. You point that camera at me, and make sure that you get the really good fight scenes. Okay. Like I'll do the fighting. You just record me. That's your sword. You don't get a microphone. No audio from you. We don't need to see you on camera. We've got these 4 guys sitting in this warehouse. That's all we need. It's just, they're tricking him. They're tricking him. It's all marketing. All right, let's go up a little bit and have some fun hanging out with you guys. There's some talk about Chris Gordon. I go to Dean. Is this like your mom goes to college? Is that what it is? Let's start off here. That's very confident, Dean. I'm very awkward on camera. You would only do that once of watching you stream something. I don't know. Start a podcast with Pam. I'm just saying. I'm going to say it every single time now. Aaron says, just like DW meant it with a hard R. Which one? That's the thing about me going back to the past and looking at stream stuff. I don't know. Winsome. What's up, Winsome? What did Winsome say earlier? I stand corrected. I thought Foster went to Tim Bailey's pastor's college. I don't know. Maybe. So Sims, Dean, I agree. The debates are not a great evangelistic tool, possibly more of an exercise to develop and refine doctrinal arguments among believers more than anything else, in my opinion. I mean, if that's what all like people are trying to do, that sounds interesting for them. Like, again, I'm not really wanting to, like, it just sounds so boring to me. I'm sorry. Carol says, Johnny Cash was more Christian than Doug Wilson. Well, that's because he believed in justification by faith alone. Unlike Doug Wilson. Laurel says, GBTS, Greenville Presbyterian Theological Seminary, home of many a Thea bro. That's true. I didn't know that he went there. I think these guys flipped the bird. Oh, yeah. Well, they put it in an ad. Like, here's the thing. Like, guys will do so much more than they will on camera, right? Like, you know that these guys are way more crass than they are in their books. Like, it's like a comedian, you know? Like, you go to your local comedy clubs and try out new material before you shoot your Netflix special, you know? Like, not that anything that these guys would do would be the equivalent of that, but Aaron says that was so cringy. True. It's strange, but Jared Longshore sounds more Southern since he left Florida for the Palouse. I think that's just like the effect of having other people who sound like so bland, and then him just being like, I have charisma. And they're like, what? Also, I will say that guy has such a good voice. He should do narration and just leave it at that. Leave theology alone and just do some narrating for some audiobooks. I'd listen to that. I want men everywhere to lift up holy hands in prayer without anger. 1 Timothy 2:8. These guys would rather do something else with their anger. Really tired, so we'll have to be part of Rewatch Army this week, mate. Glad you're back in the saddle. Appreciate that, Caleb. You can't help but tell the world your view of God. They don't feel that way about Jesus. He is a high commander, not a friend. And I think that's super troubling. Just sounds like he has a seriously underdeveloped Christology, trying to be generous here. Probably accurate. Dean, take off the hat, says Corey. Make me. Wait, I have a button. Why am I doing that? Make me. Why would you want to see that? I shaved my head a while back, so I don't have much hair right now. And I'm a little self-conscious about it, you know, a little bit. I want it to grow back now. I'm really concerned it's just not going to. All of a sudden, I'm going to turn into Joe Thorne. I'll start listening to heavy metal. So I learned the meaning of the finger tonight. Haha. I thought it was the F word, which I didn't think had anything to do with hell. I tell my kids it means that you want to hurt them. I mean, there's different people who would take it differently. But F off is the same. It's like, that is when you're saying that to somebody, you're cursing them. It's all generally the same. Let's see. Doug's brother must be younger. It's Doug's son, not his brother. Did I say his brother? I'm pretty sure I said his son. Lukewarm no more. That's why double That's why double part boy Joel Webben always refers to the Lord of the Rings. Yeah, it's interesting, that whole thing. I got Michael Foster's seminary wrong and only learned that tonight. Well, if you don't get anything else about this, you got that Wikipedia entry. Aaron says, fold on the battlefield, right? Like, come on. How does anyone take Dale seriously? I don't know. I really don't. Like this, I have been so nice. I'll say that, man. Like, he is such a weird dude. And I will just, like, I don't like to share like private things, but you go and make a video. Here's what I'll say. Make a video about Dale Partridge and just wait for the amount of people from Dale's past that will reach out to you and want to tell you information. Like, I don't take a lot of that stuff. I'm always just like, hey, you know, like, is there like, I could give you some stuff you could talk about on a video. Like, I talk about public things. I do a lot of public reaction, and, but it's just like, that tells you something about the guy. And I will just say, I am just waiting. Like Owen Strand, he keeps on going at Owen Strand. Owen Strand has been so nice about, Dale leaving, that seminary that he was at. Just waiting for one of these days. It's going to poke Owen, and Owen's just going to be like, rah, and, turn into like 2014 Owen Strand. And all of a sudden, you're going to find out a lot. Okay. What do you got? What is this? Well, you can't see because of that. What is this?
Puss in Boots' The Last Wish.
It's Puss in Boots: The Last Wish?
2.
Official trailer? Oh, you want Puss in Boots: The Last Wish 2? Okay. Here you go. Thank you for your drawing.
To watch Puss in Boots: The Last Wish 2 another day.
I'm a dad, you know? Let's see. So Sims. Okay, so this sounds weirdly like how back in the day people were radicalized online by repeating being shown certain images to elicit angst, rage, to enjoin them to terrorist organizations. I mean, it's kind of like that. They're trying to brainwash little children, but the children are 17. Where did it go? Okay, we're here. We don't have to have that up anymore. Lukewarm no more. The Hollywood guy, the guy who does the films, is his brother, not his son, Gordon Wilson, Riot and the Dance. Okay. All right, so the Hollywood guy is Doug Wilson's brother. His son is not the Hollywood guy. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Sims. Okay, I already said it. I just like saying Sims. Who's the guy in the shorts? Me. I'm wearing shorts. But in that video, I don't know. These guys couldn't do kitchen duty in the mess hall, much less don a uniform. I would wager so. Maybe Longshore could do something. He's a big dude. But I would doubt that very much from anyone else, including Joe Rigney. He wasn't even there. But let's see. It's the pietism pendulum swing for the culture. Seems that way. Just to be clear, this falls woefully short. Those men sound confused about what they're trying to do. Basically, why do they pick on Johnny Cash? He died 21 years ago. Exactly. I think that's one of the main reasons. Like, here's the deal. You don't pick these people that you're going to use as like rallying cries if they're still alive, because they could say, like, it's like, these politicians who use music for their rallies, and then the musicians come out and be like, you can't use our music anymore. And it becomes a story because it's like, I don't know, Pearl Jam didn't want, Trump to use their song or something like that. I don't know if that's true or not. But it's just like, it becomes a story. So like, you don't pick people who are still alive also because they still could compromise, on these very important things. Like, what did you think about the Olympics? Like, It maybe really matters. But like you just go back and you just say, C.S. Lewis is our guy. You know, Chesterton is our guy. These guys who aren't here to say like, I don't belong to these guys. Like I'm not part of this camp. And actually federal vision is heresy. Like you just take that out of the equation, right? So let's use Johnny Cash because we can't use Chris Stapleton because he's still alive. Also not the same. Having been in a church where there were young men like this is exactly what DW does for them. He makes them feel seen. Yeah. I mean, that's everything. Like that's marketing. That's also friendship. It's any kind of connection. Like you connect over things that you bond with. And if you can't do that positively, you know you could do it negatively, right? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's the same thing, right? Like, so you go, we can rally against this because you also see how, you know, the opening of the Olympics is the fall of all Western civilization. You know, like if you agree with me on that, we are now bonded. Like that's what they do. Like, or you read this crazy article, this conspiracy theory about the Nephilim, and Joel Webbin is talking about it, and now you're bonded to him, right? Like that's all it is. But we also see that, you know, in positive senses too. Here, we're kind of like that. We're a community, right? So like a lot of you guys are here because you also see the things that I'm talking about. You know, like we get some people who will disagree, some people who watch and, you know, sometimes they agree with me, sometimes they don't. But generally, the people who are in this audience have been hurt by church leadership, have seen abuse scandals, maybe even have been abused themselves. And like they've been disappointed with leaders. They see the polarization of politics, and we all agree about these things, and we've bonded over that, and we've become this underdog community. So it is a thing just across like all of humanity. But the extremists, they know how to, you know, ratchet that thing up. And it's not just like commiserating, you know, of just being like, we all see this and we can have community over this. It's movement. It's like you've been radicalized and now you have your marching orders, like that kind of deal. And so the radicals, they will always do that. But yeah, it's very much like that. They make themselves feel seen by seeing Doug Wilson say, you know, flip the bird to whoever. I think Justin Peters or John M. picked on Martin Luther King, said he's not a Christian. He died when I was a kid. Yeah, apparently that's still a thing people are doing right now. Somebody was talking about Martin Luther King. It's like, why are we doing this right now? He went off for a few seconds. Am I having some tech problems? Let me know if I like hat on. Yeah, I think most people would. Let's see. Why does that big chair Joel Webbin sit in his videos look like a villain chair? Well, because of who's sitting in it. No, I don't know if like you could put like the nicest person in the world in my head, Mr. Rogers. All right. You could put Mr. Rogers in that chair and not even he could make it look like, you know, we're about to have like a good time. Like there's like that chair. It's just what are you trying to do here? I look around at stuff like that. You know, this is a set, guys. Like I'll show like this is my basement. You know, this is a set. I care about this kind of stuff. As I ruined everything. Let me try. Okay, I think that's good. Or nope, it's not. I need it. We'll go right there. But you know, it's a set. And so you put things in a set to get some responses. So for me, like I want like the basement vibes, but I also want it to look nice. So, you know, this stuff is here for those purposes to get like a chill environment. So he's putting all those things there because he wants people who think that they're smart. And, maybe didn't go to college and like conspiracy theories and, you know, care about whiskey and leather and stuff like that. And, I like whiskey and leather too, but, I don't need to put that on a video except when it's the olive, but we won't talk about that. One of my former friends loves heavy metal. It sounds like a broken garbage disposal. Okay. I don't like it. I just don't. Like there was, Joe Thorne sent me some songs like way back in the day. And he was like, I think you should try these, just try them and see if you like them. And I was like, this stuff is actually pretty good. But then like he sent me some other stuff and I was like, I don't know. I don't think I can get into this. And then I just haven't tried since. And a great dad at that, Dean. Keep up the great work. 100%. Thanks to Sims. Thanks, Carol. My kid is pretty cute. It's pretty easy to be his dad. The other two, I'm just kidding. It doesn't help what Joel Webben believes in, kind of scares me. Yeah, that makes sense. He's a scary guy, So that's about all the content that I have of different things, we could talk about. I am willing to chill if you guys want me to chill. And if you guys have questions, we could chill for a little bit. Got a couple minutes. We've already been streaming for an hour and 50 minutes. Well, dang, that's longer than I thought. But you know what? That's kind of fun. I like chilling. I like streaming. It's a pretty good time. So we could chill. We could not. You could ask me questions. You could not. It's all up to you. It's almost 2 hours. Yeah. Yeah. Great stream tonight, Dean. Thanks. Everyone's like, nope, we're good. We're good. we don't need to hang out. We've had enough. That's okay. You know what? I'm going to take this down and then I could just bring it up the way I want to because it's my stream and I could do what I want. Barbara. Am I the only one who thinks it's super funny when you just randomly yell and you just throw in a name? It's my Ken Ham thing. There's no one in Ken Ham's life named Susan, or at least not that I know of. And it just came to me. And so I made this whole thing of how Ken Ham is always mad at Susan with those bits that I did. And I constantly think about that. I thought it was really funny. Okay. Let's see. We got Ethan saying, are you, Dean, are you watching Rings of Power? Why am I yelling? Rings of Power. Any thoughts? Thoughts. Here's my thoughts. I think Rings of Power is better than Lord of the Rings. All right. I'm joking, but I'm also kind of serious. I love it. I don't know why. I don't get it. I know it's not right. Okay. But here's the deal. My wife adores Lord of the Rings, is always watching Lord of the Rings. It's like a thing that's constantly on in my house. And like, there are moments where I'll sit and like hang out with her and watch it. And so I've seen it many times and I'm just like never into it. Rings of Power though. I don't know why, but that show speaks to me in a real way. Okay. I started rewatching it just to remember what was going on because the new season just started. And in preparation for that, I started rewatching the first season. And I get that it's dumb. Like in my mind, I understand that it's dumb, but there are things that just like get my like emotions going. Like it just gets me somehow. Like there's the moment when Galadriel gets on the boat in Numenor, which sounds like the nerdiest frickin' thing ever. Okay. Like there's some moments that like 18-year-old Dean like sneaks back into my brain and goes like, what the heck are you talking about, dude? Like, you're such a nerd. But when Galadriel gets on the boat in Numenor and like her hair is blowing and like you get like the three friends like looking like we're going on an adventure And I don't know why. I just think it's the most epic thing ever. Like, I'm just like, heck yeah! Like, why? I barely know those three characters. Like, Galadriel looks like ridiculous with her hair. Like, they do like the theme, which is a great theme. But they do the theme. Maybe it's just the theme. But they do the theme, and the hair is blowing everywhere. And it's just like, this is so corny. But for me, it works so well. And that's just like constant throughout it. I just love it. I don't know why. The new season, I'm liking a lot. I thought it was really fun. And, I like where some of the things are at. I want some things to happen faster. Like, but that's like, I've just kind of come to terms with that. That's just the show. It's going to be a slow burn. And I'm okay with that sometimes. Like, I tweeted about it though. Like, I know everyone's like super excited about Sauron and seeing like the manipulation and like the forging of the rings and stuff like that. I don't care about that. I just want more Durin. I just want Durin. That guy is rad. His beard is rad. He's rad. His relationship with his dad is rad. Elrond, his brotherhood with Elrond. I want it. I just think it's so cool. I love that stuff. So I'm really digging it. I want things to happen faster with the Istar. But yeah, everything else I'm digging. I'm even digging what they're doing with whatever his face, the guy from Numenor, who's like later on he doesn't throw the ring in the fire. Isildur. These names are ridiculous. But yeah, I'm just digging it. I like it a lot. That was a really long-winded way to say I'm digging it. But where's the skeletons? We did have a mishap. There, I see a piece. My clay porcelain skull thing, the tan one fell. So made sure to have the skeleton light on, but it's kind of a bummer. Night Sims. Thanks, Carol. Dylan went for a walk, but I'm back. Looking forward to hearing what was discussed. I don't know. I don't even remember. Might be important. I don't know. Do not tell Ken Ham anything. Oh man, I am so tempted to make another Ken Ham video. I haven't seen movies lately. There's nothing I want to see right now. Kind of me. I'm looking forward to Conclave, which is like a murder mystery inside the Vatican. And I'm hearing great things about it. The trailer was really fun and like kind of like, ooh, what's going to happen? And there are great actors in it. So I am looking forward to that one. Home Alone is great. Question. What was you and Heather's process for naming your kids? I read 40,000 baby name books, while Aaron said, "Ew, no, and I'd rather not." I don't know. We just kind of where'd it go? Like there's theologians that I love that some of my kids are named after. There are people that I used to love that, some of them are named after. But yeah, I would, I look for meaning. Like one of my kids' name means strength, and that was on purpose. So like there's that, there's theologians, there's family. I looked for those, and not just like a baby name book, but just like, I don't know. There's also names that just kind of were ringing in my head. We did lose one baby, and we had a name picked out, and there was a special name, and so like that. Yeah. So it was just like stuff like that. Just like I had meaning in all of the names. None of our kids are named just for the name. So yeah, I don't know. Like there were some almost changes. Like one of our kids was almost named Alan, because I just really like the way it sounded, and you don't hear it too often. And our kids, their names are not like super popular right now. They're not like rare names, but they're not very popular right now. But in like the 18th century, they were. So like just looking for like kind of meaning and not being like everyone else kind of deal. But yeah. Let's see, been a busy Saturday night, so I'm going to need to go back and watch. Sounds like it's been a great stream. I'm glad. One Girl Army says, getting on the boat sounds like our discussion about men and their adventures. It calls to you. Kind of. I don't know. I don't know why. Like I don't get it, because like usually I kind of laugh at those kinds of things, you know, when something, you know, was shot to be epic and like it doesn't really have any real sense within the story, because like honestly the story of the first season of Rings of Power isn't great, and so far the second season I think is actually a little bit of a step up as far as general stories, but the character moments were so strong for me that it kind of dominated that, like it overcame that. And so those moments that I would usually laugh at because the story hasn't earned those moments, it worked. It worked really well to where I am still currently, because they're an hour each, you know? So even when I started like a week ago, started rewatching the season to try to catch up, and even though there's only like 8 episodes or whatever, I still have like half the season left. So I don't know if I'm going to rewatch all of it, but I'm just like finding myself being just as like into it as I was the first time, which is weird. I didn't go out to see MacArthur's movie last year. It looked boring. Probably not the best movie. Are you excited for Netflix to do Narnia? 100%. You know, these guys out in Moscow who think that C.S. Lewis is their guy and all of that, and they just love everything C.S. Lewis. I love him more. All right. Like Narnia was so special to me. Like I'll get into it. Like I might clip some of this stuff out. You know, I didn't grow up in like the best family. You know, we had a lot of the reasons why I talk about some of the things that I talk about on this channel are because things like that happened in my family and in my past. So like certain things were an escape. Comic books were an escape. Star Wars was an escape. Narnia was an escape. I mean, I can remember specific moments where things were happening, but I was closed up in a room reading about, you know, Prince Caspian and just being transported, you know, and like getting away from there. And so like that, it's special to me. It's special to my boys. We've made many pilgrimage through Narnia. And so I love it. And I love Greta Gerwig. I know everyone else and their mom is like super nervous about Greta Gerwig getting her hands on Narnia. I think she's a fantastic filmmaker, a good storyteller, and I think she probably will bring so much heart to these stories that, yes, are an allegory, but it's primarily a story of wonder. And yes, there's obviously some themes that C.S. Lewis was trying to communicate in them, but I don't think that they'll change it. You might not have as robust of conversations, you know, or as direct as you see it in the books. But that was also with the Disney movies that they did, and the Disney movies were bad. The first one was okay. But after that, it just went downhill pretty quick. But yeah, so I'm excited for him, and I want to see it bad. Ethan says, I do not like Rings of Power that much. It's a super mid show to me, but I love Tolkien, so I can't help myself from watching. It's a problem. I find myself pausing and yelling at the TV. That is funny. Do people trick or treat in Canada? Yes, they do. And we do. And we have a great time. My kids are so excited for Halloween. It's going to be a fantastic time. Can we get Frodo and Sam to take that Canon Press video back to Mordor where it was forged? I don't know if they would even be able to. Maybe the Eagles. You got me all tongue-tied. Mordor, Moscow, I don't know what's what anymore. It's kind of similar, isn't it? Gotta go watch Rings of Power with my hubby now. Night. Have fun. My family wasn't saved. I was brought up in the Catholic Church. Okay. Heidi says, my escape was the Hardy Boys. It sounds funny now, but I lived through their social life while homeschooled me, lived in isolation. What? You want to be a Ninja Turtle?
No, I want to be Mega Minion Jerry.
Okay, Mega Minion Jerry. All right, guys, I'm going to make sure this guy actually gets in bed because it's a little late for him to be coming down. But I will be back at some point in the future to talk about more of this kind of stuff. And we're going to have a blast doing it. And yeah, I'll probably throw on some Rings of Power just for fun. But I will see you in the next one. Thanks for